Investor group, including BlackRock, NVIDIA, XAI, and Microsoft, has now agreed to buy Aligned data centers for about $40 billion. That deal marks the largest data center transaction now on record. Aligned operates and has planned capacity now of more than 5 gigawatts across 50 data centers. Transaction expected to close in the first half of 2026. And this is a nice way back into our conversation with you, Brad Gerstner, about what is going on here. Yeah. The opportunity set. $40 billion.
Just a small $40 billion transaction, again, in the space that we're all talking about. You know, maybe to just provide some context here. The Manhattan Project was $4 billion. You inflation adjust that, that's $40 billion. Right. It was 1% of GDP. So if you take 1% of GDP, that's $300 to $400 billion. Okay? That was a government-funded project that had a big impact on the economy. Right. The compute build-out that's going on now is 10x the Manhattan Project with no government funding, all privately funded by deals like the one you just heard announced, right? So this is when you think about the tailwinds in the economy, right, as we head into 2026, think about the stimulus of now a 10x Manhattan Project. Then we have this massive reindustrialization investment. You heard J.P. Morgan yesterday, $1.5 trillion. You heard Stellantis today talk about their $13 billion investment. Bessent's talking about it at the White House today. A massive reindustrialization build-out on the back of trillions from the Middle East, $550 billion from Japan, et cetera. So, and then you have this deregulation and the M&A wave that's coming on. So I think there's a lot of tailwinds for this economy.
Yeah, it sounds like something that's hard to bet against or to short.
That's right. And you're doing it in a moment in time that the rate, that rates are coming down. And we talked at the beginning of the year. I remember I was on here in March, and you guys said, which way are you going with the markets? And I said, listen, if we follow Navarro down the $2.5 trillion tariff path, I can't be on board with that. And we had taken down our exposures in the market. I said, but if we land the plane on the Bessent consensus, $350 billion of tariffs, right, which includes, China, if we get the big bill done and we extend tax cuts, then we could be in a rate-cutting cycle by the end of the year, and we're at the beginning of this AI super cycle. And when you look at all this, again, you have to give the president credit. Not only did they bring this peace deal to Gaza this week, which is extraordinary, and he and Witkoff and Jared Kushner deserve a lot of credit for it, but they landed the plane on a lot of these tariff deals. They got the big bill done in the extension of the tax cuts. We have started to see the beginning of the rate cutting cycle. Inflation hasn't abated, but it seems to be in check. So just the flight path of the plane, Andrew. Now, of course, the NASDAQ is up 35% off the bottom from, May 2nd. So I think you have to adjust your position sizes accordingly. But anybody who wants to fight the Fed and fight this stimulus into the economy heading into next year seems to me.
Where's the new opportunity, though, then in this market? If the NASDAQ's already made the move, if you will, is there a piece of this market that you think is unloved that should be loved?
It's funny. 2005, I have one of the great portfolio managers of the world, Paul Reeder, runs Park Capital in Boston. And he would come into my office. I had all my public investment in Google. And Google would go up, and he would come and he'd say, well, what are we going to do next? I would say, buy more Google, right? Oftentimes, the best ideas are your current ideas, are the last ideas, right? When I look at NVIDIA over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to continue to compound. Why? Because the things we just talked about. You got to build out this compute. Don't trust, just Sam Altman. If you listen to Satya Nadella, if you listen to Sundar, if you listen to Hock Tan, if you listen to any, they will all tell you the same thing. We are going to be compute constrained for the next several years, for certain, right? You had Greg Brockman on yesterday. Greg said if we had 10x more compute, I don't know if we'd have 10x more revenue at OpenAI, but we'd have a lot more revenue. The fact of the matter is this is an existential, not only an economic security matter, but a national security matter. Right, we have to keep up in the AI race. So this is going to get built out. And so I think you could continue to invest along the compute spectrum.
Help me with one thing, and it was the tease before the 8 o'clock hour. There are some folks who say, how can I play OpenAI? I can't get access to this private company and their shares, but I can backdoor this potentially by owning either SoftBank, which obviously owns a piece of this, and Microsoft, which owns a piece of this. And we'll see, obviously, when and if OpenAI ultimately goes public.
So we are investors in Microsoft and SoftBank, in part for that reason.
Okay.
I think Microsoft in particular is really misunderstood how much they're benefiting from the present moment. I'm going to have Satya on the BG2 pod coming up, and we'll explore that in depth. But one of the things, I would say on that is, like, I think there's still this underappreciation for the massive, for this massive build out that's going on. If you think that's going to occur, right, then SoftBank and Microsoft will continue to be big winners with those tailwinds.